right, let's go.
Hell yeah, it's rolling. I see it in
We're
top
rolling right now, dude. We are
Let's
live.
go.
We are live.
Hell yeah, we're live. So,
It's
dude,
Tuesday, July 8th, 2025.
yes.
I'm here with myself and Dylan. Dude, what's
What's up? Dude, we're living in a very interesting time right now. Great time to be alive, right?
yeah. Yeah,
It's
life's been pretty good. We just had 4th of July weekend. It was a
yeah,
little hectic over here.
yeah, very.
And as of yesterday, the appointments have been flying.
Hell yeah.
Real estate appointments.
Yeah, there we go. It's same here. So let's just get into a little bit of what kind of our background is, I guess, is we both, well, you joined real estate right after high school, and I did 1 year of college and went into real estate. So we were kind of both two examples of what people can do besides going the traditional route. And obviously, both of us were in real estate, and that was something that has been working out for us. You've been doing it for 3 or 4 years, and I've been doing it for now 2 and some change.
Why did you choose the non-traditional route?
Well, I'm a big believer in foreshadowing and seeing your future, and it's birds with feather flock together, and show me your friends and I'll show you your future. So when I was at this small hood college school, I was playing shortstop, sharing time with a senior, that same exact senior, sharing playing time with that senior. That same exact guy was sleeping 2 doors down from me and eating at the same dining hall every day. So I was like, I'm just sitting here knowing what my future is looking like. I'm gonna be this guy in 4 years. If I just keep up this pace, I'm gonna still be here. I'm gonna still be sharing playing time. And I think I'd be different a little bit, but I saw the future of how that was going to go. And I was like, dude, fuck that. I don't wanna be someone who's kind of stagnant. I think college makes you stagnant. And
College is a scam these days.
yeah,
College is such a scam. Dude, I think the best move that you could make between our generation of people is not going to college.
yeah.
I think college is it was great in the past, but now it is completely overvalued. The value of a degree is diluted. We have artificial intelligence that's going to be replacing all of those white collar jobs that people spent $150,000 to get qualified to do.
Yeah.
And there's just people are going to have a bunch of student loan debt that's backed by a degree that's fucking worthless in the in the marketplace in 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Because we're visionaries and we can read the future because that's just how we are.
I completely agree, but to challenge your point on that.
Okay, challenge.
Do you think that because colleges are backed by the government, that the government won't allow the college degree to become?
I wouldn't say it's not that they're not allowing. Here's the problem. The government essentially subsidized. I don't know if that's the right word, but from what I understand is anybody can get a loan to finance college, no matter what your history is, how old you are, how qualified you are. If you get accepted into a college, you're getting the funds to go there. And the government essentially guarantees these loans. And they did it, I think they did it out of good intent. The intention of the government backing the financing of people's education is so that everyone had an equal right and opportunity to get funding, to get an education, where it used to be extremely limited towards people who had access to the capital. But with that comes the problem of there's no underwriting on these loans. So now colleges can charge whatever they want, no matter what they charge. The financing for the student to attend the university is guaranteed, and then so the price to go to college gets massively inflated because they're just going to nickel and dime to the max.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter how high they go.
No.
And then on top of that, you just have more and more people going to college, which means that more people have the degree. So it's like if 50% of people have a college degree, what's the value of a degree? It's only 1 in 2 people. Whereas like, you know, a couple of decades ago, it was probably 10% of the population had a degree. You know, now you're 1 in 10 in the marketplace of, you know, workers.
Totally.
So I don't know. All in all,
yeah, no, I mean, and now to kind of stand out by having a college degree, you need to go for even more college. So it's like it's literally a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, all right, yeah. So you need to just pay for another 3 years of college for this degree to actually matter the way it should matter. And the way that I kind of see it is it's this massive like sales pitch of selling these 18-year-old kids on the lifestyle that they can live. Of course, they're going to choose the parties, the girls, and you know, seeing all these sports. And have you ever been around anyone that's like went to like a big SEC school like Alabama or Florida? It's like that's their personality, and it's like, dude, I don't know. The way that I see that, it's like it's just they absorbed that person, and then they convinced them that, you know, this is this amazing like life.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely the cultural aspect too.
Yeah.
Of, you know, going and having fun, but then doing it off of a fucking student loan is stupid.
It's stupid.
Like,
yeah.
If you're gonna want to do that, just buy a one-way ticket to Thailand and like drink beer and drink cheap beer, eat cheap food that's good, and do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Don't spend it on an $80,000 loan.
Yeah. Well, what would you? So I have a feeling I know what you're gonna say. But what would you say to the people that say that college is a playground? Like you're able to use college however you want. You have the resources to, you know,
well,
talk
that's awesome.
to.
If you do get access to really good tools, resources, you're surrounded by You're surrounded by a large group of people that are within the same age demographic, and you know, a lot of people are. It's not bad all around, but here's my problem with the standard education system today.
Yeah.
Is society in reference to like our parents, how we're raised. There's a lot of pressure to attend college, go to a university. And the reason why is because our parents' generation and their parents' generation, they're able to go to college, secure reasonably, you know, tuition wasn't crazy expensive. They'd get a reasonable loan. They'd come out of college, they'd get a reasonable high-paying job that allowed them that made them capable of paying off that student loan extremely quickly. And then at the same time, they were able to afford a mortgage and 2 cars off of one standard, you know, average wage job. Today, that's not how it works. You get a student loan, you go to college, you graduate college, you live at home for maybe a decade and a half just to pay off your student loan. If you even get a decent job, if you get a job that you even use your diploma to get, which most people don't even use now. So they go to college to get a diploma that they don't even use to utilize to increase their income. It's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I think that for the most part, yes, there are colleges that have great professors, great tools, and you get access to all these amazing things, but at what cost?
Yeah. Yeah.
How much of a burden is $150,000 going to be on you when you're making $70,000 a year coming out of college, which is above the average, I believe, and then you know you're taxed at 20-something%.
Yeah,
it's
the reason why. I mean, the reason why I think college is really messed up is it is just pushing people to go into the workforce. college forces everyone now to get a job and play it safe and pay your taxes.
And the ridiculous thing to me is it's not safe. It's the most unsafe trajectory because you're guaranteed being handcuffed to debt.
Yes, so, absolutely. I completely agree with that. Yeah, it means that you're now screwed. You're stuck with this debt that you now have to.
Now I have a question for you.
What,
in terms of like the actual education system, what can be implemented that do you think, because I want to ask this question to myself, but what do you think could solve because you do need an education system. So how do you think, what are things that we could implement or that can be implemented and that would change this if you had like any power to shift anything?
So I think the ability to when you're going to high school, middle school, all those like that's necessary for not only like the social skills and all that, but it's critical thinking and doing all that sort of stuff. I do think it could be fast tracked. I don't think we need to be waiting until 18. I think if we were going to shift the entire system, I would say high school graduates should end at 16. And at age 16 or 17, you're now going into a more co-op type of situation where or maybe it's one year where you just learn a bunch of different career fairs, or you go to a bunch of different career fairs, or you go to a bunch of different things such as that, and you just learn the way life is. And you get exposed to it at 16 or 17. And from there,
like direct from companies, pretty much.
Exactly. So direct from you either go direct to companies and you're like, yeah, this really interests me. And then the way that it would work is the company doesn't need a college degree. And all that they will do is they will just onboard a bunch of 17-year-olds, and the 17-year-olds will work underneath them for little pay, because they don't it's better to get
better than the college job for the
17-year-old. Exactly. So they work in their own college the way that they want to teach them for 2 years, and then at 19 they're completely out of debt. Every single person is working.
I think what you're saying is very realistic towards where this where things are going to go, in a sense that I agree. I think companies are going to begin hiring, because colleges have always been a filter for companies to hire. And certain companies like hiring from certain schools because they know the curriculums that those students go through. And based on how they perform in those curriculums, they essentially know what kind of worker they're going to get. And in order to train, even after college, companies still have to train them specific to the tasks that they need done. And I think, like, you make a really good point of where things are going, is that companies are going to begin training people directly out of high school at like 17, 18 years old. Because for the high school student, it's like, do I go to college and take out all this debt, or I can get this job that trains me directly? I actually start getting paid right away. I don't have to take out all these loans. And then the companies do it at scale, utilizing AI and video tools to train employees like with video or basic AI software. Where that trains them.
Totally. A couple things with that is, number one, I would even throw it up for debate that these kids shouldn't even get paid from ages of 17 to 18, 17 to 19.
Yeah, non-paid.
They're not going into debt. Like if you go to college, you're literally you're paying for something that is only going to make you get paid. I don't know. It's whatever. But with that system that we would potentially go down, I don't think that will happen. I really don't see that future, because the government and colleges have so much control and power now that they're never going to want to give that up.
Yeah.
So it's never going to change. But if it were to change, I think this is the best way. Colleges corporations get their own sort of training systems, and
The only
they
way I
start
see it
training.
changing is if the companies begin doing that and then begin outperforming the companies
Yes.
that are hiring from these institutions.
But why would they take that risk though? There's nothing that's there's nothing that's stopping them from just keeping the way it is right now.
The company, like a private
The
company.
company. Yeah.
Well, if they could hire someone who's just as good at a cheaper rate, or let's say they hire directly from Harvard and that's their filter. Well,
Mhm.
what if they have, essentially a training system that can hire and filter from a pool of 100,000 people, and they might be able to get somebody who's more qualified for the job at a cheaper rate, especially considering that, you know, the student who went to Harvard is going to be wanting and demanding this salary, whereas they might be able to get someone who's just as suitable through this new filtering system.
Yeah.
I mean, it's totally a long shot.
Well, so I,
I'm just challenging your thought here.
yeah, well,
I,
what I'm thinking now is I think we have a better chance of a third party company being created that is similar to a college. It works more efficiently, it doesn't take as much time, and it's cheaper. That is a vetting system for corporations. So let's just say it's like a journey.
you're on target. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I think
I don't
companies.
think that. Let me finish this thought really quick. I don't think that corporations are going to be open to, because then now they're going to have to open up a whole new branch of training and a whole new branch of kind of whatever, in comparison to a competitor to college. It's something that's cheaper, something that's faster, and it's something that could probably get you another job. Like, can get you a job. Like, how do we get kids a degree like something that a corporation will be comfortable with paying you a salary because of your experience as a young college or young non-college student in this different vetting process, to where, like, how do we create something like that? And that's the question, is what does that look like? Is it just a bunch of different professors and people who are qualified enough to talk about whatever topic they're talking about, and giving these kids some sort of degrees for cheaper, or the ability to move on to the next path?
It doesn't make sense to me that companies would begin using video and GPTs or chats to build out their own training system or training module to then hire and train at scale.
Mm-hmm.
I think they could do it cheaper. I think they could get the same quality of worker doing that as the alternative is, because, like, for example, you get a student out of college, you still have to train them.
Yeah.
It's not like they learn how to do what you need done in college for the most part. I mean, yeah, architectures, they're engineers. There are a lot of things that are going to require
Basic knowledge, though, like really basic knowledge.
For the most part. From my experience of, like, most people I know, is they graduate college and the work that they're doing is completely irrelevant from everything that they've spent doing in college.
Yeah.
And if companies can simply train and hire through a larger mass pool of people, and then they have these filtering systems that give them the grade A worker that they need, they could probably compensate them with a smaller salary, because maybe they're 18 years old and live at home and don't have any debt.
Yeah.
And don't feel obligated to this high paying salary because they didn't go to college. Well, all the other companies are going to be ignoring that person anyways. So there's that loophole too, where you're going to have the companies that are going to be looking at this pool of people that don't have degrees as an opportunity to get the same grade A worker, be able to train them to work just as efficiently, if not better, but compensate them at a cheaper rate.
Well, that's only the shift though. Like that's only the thing to get you in the front door. Because once they see that that 18-year-old kid is significantly better or at least equivalent to a 22-year-old kid that got graduated college, now this kid has 4 years at the company to outperform that person. And these people are probably going to be more motivated because I think college for like 40-50% of college students, they're literally just told to work hard enough to not get fired or not fail the class. And maybe in this different, better world that we're creating right now, that the way that vetting system will work is it's not based on pass fail. It's based on how hard did you try and are you understanding what's going on? And it's not, it doesn't have to do with results. And then I think we're going to be creating a lot of really high performing individuals if that's the case.
Yeah. Another thought I had regarding like change, because like you said before, the colleges, companies, the government, they're not going to allow this to happen.
No.
Unless some kind of significant change is made. And here's the only change that I think would immediately impact this is if we immediately begin underwriting the loans and requiring the financing to not be backed and guaranteed by the government, but to be backdated by
investors,
private funding. Because what that's going to do immediately is what investor is going to finance a student and bet on them that they're going to pay them back after
if they go for gender studies.
Gender studies at $120,000 over 4 years. It's going to immediately eliminate all of the bullshit that goes on within the education system.
That's a really good, point.
It's going to immediately reallocate everyone's attention towards the jobs and the education that's needed towards the jobs that the marketplace actually values, because those are the things that the banks and the private funding will only be willing to finance. That's going to happen immediately. And then colleges are going to have to just crash what they charge because they're not going to be willing to pay those astronomical prices because it's no longer guaranteed. It's going to deflate all of the costs.
That's a really good solution. I'm trying to think of what bad things would come from that though. Like what bad things would come from a private investor?
Well, you can make the argument that the opportunity to go to college and get an education is going to be limited now. But that's why it's valuable in the first place. However, it's going to be limited to the people who have access to the funding. Well, in order to get access to the funding, you're going to have to compete for it. I'm sorry, but that's how the world works.
So then what do you
compete to be the best?
What does that kind of look like then? Does that look like only 50% of the population that would traditionally be going to college now is going to college, or 20%? 80%? How does that kind of sway? How do we know?
It's definitely going to shrink the pool of people that are going to be able to go to college immediately.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's also gonna make it realistic towards what is the value of a college degree.
Yeah.
Because now it's not just the people, the 18-year-olds that are signing a document that are committed to going because their parents have told them that's what you're supposed to do since you were 5.
Yeah.
But now it's actually a financial investor who has to underwrite and get a return on investment and has to determine the value of the education that you're going to be receiving.
Well, so going back to ROI on it, it's like, okay, when you and I talk about what the ROI is on college, we have a skewed perspective because we're looking at, are you going to be able to make enough money quick enough to be able to pay this stuff off and make that college degree worth it? And that's not all that college is. College is that experience like we were talking about. Like there are memories and there are like fun times that are like you really can't put a price tag on. So that's why I think a lot of people shift away from that. That's why colleges are able to you know push that much, like charge that much money, because it's more than just a degree that they offer. It's the experience. And I think that's what draws in a lot of people to go to college. And then they just get screwed over after 4 years. I was always one of like a believer that I'd rather sacrifice 4 years right now working really hard and not doing the traditional route, and have a better life in the future. But I know some people don't have that kind of perspective. So
yeah, I mean, I think that's why you and I are here. Yeah, I was willing to sacrifice it in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
and most people aren't and don't.
no, nothing at all.
There are aspects of me that are like, man, maybe, maybe I could have fast tracked where I am, my success going to college. At least at the Coast Guard Academy, it's free. Like I probably would be way ahead in the bank and in life right now going to the academy.
Yeah. No, I hear that.
But I think what I've been building, I think will compound and be
exactly.
bigger.
Yeah, well, that's the hardest thing. Like, this is our college.
Yeah.
And it's a anxiety-filled, horrible, like, yeah, it's not horrible, but it's just like a lot of work and a lot of stress.
I wouldn't even say it's a lot of work, because I mean it is a lot of work, but compared to going to college, it's just as much work. If not, college might be even more actual physical or desk work, thinking work, studying work, test taking work, all these things. I think the big difference between what we're doing and what college has is the level of uncertainty of success, where there's absolutely nothing that's guaranteed. Where at least when you go to school, you're told there's a minimum benchmark that you have to hit to be successful. There's no benchmark. The benchmark for us is you have to figure it out. Find out how to make money.
Yeah.
Figure it out. Find a client. Hopefully they hire you because they think you're good at what you do. Be the best at it. Beat everyone else. Have them sign
keep doing it.
Hire you. Keep doing it on repeat.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
How is there a creative way for you to beat the competitor who's established, been in the business for 20 years and is 45, 50 years old?
And you just got to figure it out. Yeah. And that's the best kind of problem solving that I think that life could offer. It's just throw yourself into the industry and just figure it out.
Yeah, and there's high uncertainty and high pressure, and I think that's why it's so much more difficult.
Yeah.
Even though the amount of work the amount of physical work might be the same, the mental and the emotional attitude towards it, I think, is a lot. There's just more pressure, higher level of uncertainty, and that creates more stress. And I think that puts a toll on more people to just do what they're told.
Exactly. Yeah. And really quickly before we wrap it up, is I think that when college students when they're going through their college process, freshman year, sophomore year, junior year is all sunshine and rainbows. Like they're just enjoying their life, even if they had to do a little bit of work. Like let's just say that we have a person who's working really hard and they're working 60 hours a week in their studies. They have another 128 hours to every week to enjoy their life. Like obviously sleeping, whatever, but they're not worried about anything beyond that. They're doing their work, they're studying, they're doing their stuff. And then once they're done, they just know that they're on the right path. And they could be scared about like a test result or whatever and all that sort of stuff. But when you're looking at those 3 years, it's like, all right, everything is fine. because I'm in college and it's socially acceptable for me to be in college right now. And then when you go to your senior year, it's like, oh my God, like the workforce is a year from now. They get burdened by that thought. And then when you get in the last semester of your senior year, that's when people really start to freak out. Like all of our friends just did that. Like all of our, like, I don't know how many, it doesn't really seem like you have many friends in college. Yeah.
I do.
Okay.
Like
Seems
my
like all your
friend
friends
Brady that you
is
met,
like, yeah.
that we played tennis with, like he went to
Oh, okay.
Fairfield for 4 years,
Yeah.
and he's working full time from home. A lot of my friends went to college. I ended up after high school, well, because I stayed home. A lot of the friends I have now that I'm just closer to because I've had the last 4 years to spend time with them.
Mhm.
Either stayed home and did county college, like ACC, or they entered the workforce. But for the most part, I mean, almost all of my friends have gone to school, if at the minimum county college for the most part, which I honestly think is a great deal.
Yeah.
The county college by us, you get credits, you pick your classes, your professors, you could take anything you want.
Yeah.
And you can apply
That's cool.
to anything. And there's, opportunities to build a resume and, find a leeway into working for a good company through maybe a professor or something like that.
Totally.
Not what I did, but I have friends that did.
Now, so on that note, something that I think that you'd find interesting is Massachusetts, I think maybe it was last year, did an extra tax on like 1%, did a 1% additional tax on anyone making over $1 million. And supposedly, I don't know how much I trust it, but all of those funds that were taxed went directly to pay for every single, like, what was it called? JUCO? I think it is JUCO, but it's not JUCO. It's a junior college. Yeah, like a junior college. Like they paid for junior college, like a community college. Paid for every single person that wanted to go to a community college. It paid for it. So I know you and I both aren't fans of tax and government. We want small governments, but for something like this, where it's the funds are actually being allocated to something that is valuable. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't think the cost of county college is inflated like the universities are. For the most part, the pricing is good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know why that is, to be honest, and the professors are great. I went to 2 classes at OCC, and one of my professors was a hyper successful, it was like some 101 entrepreneur business class. And he was there because he genuinely wanted to be there. Was probably in his mid 50s, has built and sold multi-million dollar companies. And I'm like, how the hell did I score this professor at OCC, which is a county college? And there's like really no barrier to entry to get into that classroom, other than the fact that I didn't go to another college or like a higher, and it was like a $1,500 class.
Are you still in contact with that guy?
But what was that?
Are you still in contact with that guy?
No, that was 4 years ago before I started this real estate thing. I had to drop the class because I changed trajectory.
Yeah.
But,
well, that's 1 in a million though, obviously.
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, the other thing I have to say is I think the student loan debt bubble is going to get pretty bad. I do think that in the next decade, where you're going to have a lot of people, unless there's just a revival job market and all of a sudden there's these extremely well compensated, high paying jobs that they're going to get. And I don't know where that's going to come from, but maybe it gets created. We'll see. But I do think that there's going to be a period of time where a lot of these white collar workers are going to get displaced because of technological advancements that are going to be able to do the job, the very high technical job that they're trained to do, and took out all this debt to learn how to do, and it's going to get replaced and automated. And I think there's going to be a window where that's an issue, and then you're going to have a ton of people that aren't getting compensated and have this extremely high level of debt that they're going to have to pay off. And how are they going to do it? Who knows? But then there's the issue of, okay, well, what if we tax these people, use those money, and relieve their debts?
Yeah.
And government might enforce that. Like that's why I think in New York, for example, like they're really close to moving towards just full-on socialism with the current election.
Yeah, it's scary.
You have this huge block of voters between 20 and 30 years old that went to college. They did everything their parents said. They went to school, they went to college, they
Got
took
good
out loans,
grades.
they got a degree. They're having a hard time in the workforce. They now found a job, which the job they found, they might have not even been able to find using their degree. And based on the salary they're getting paid now, they can't afford a mortgage to buy a house. They maybe can barely afford a car payment on a car. And they're squeezed thin. Like they have there's just nowhere for them to go. And then they say, okay, I have $150,000 in student loans. How can I get dug out of this hole? Oh, well, now there's this candidate who wants to take money from the rich and help me pay all of these things off.
Yeah.
And that's the trajectory we're going in now.
Yeah. Which, if you're in that scenario, it makes sense why you would want that.
Yeah. I'd want, we're very driven based on our incentives.
Yeah.
But then what are the repercussions? Like, what are the downsides of that? Well,
yeah, exactly. So that's the problem is if you're looking, so we're both real estate guys, and if you're looking at a house that has a flood problem, people always say, oh, put French drains and the sump pump in the basement. That is just a response to the problem. So if we raise the wages, that's only a response to the problem. We need to fix the actual flooding that's going on outside. Maybe we need to put a sway in the backyard to funnel all the water away from the house. So we need to figure out a problem that's not going to just double down on what the actual problem is. So if the problem that we're going through right now is people aren't able to afford life, why are people not able to afford life? If people that go to college, they have these debts. It should be exactly the way that you said it in the first place, where these debts should be backed by private funding, and that way it'll be forced to be legitimate.
Yeah, I think can I answer the question you just asked yourself?
Yeah.
It's because we're giving out the stupidest fucking loans in the world and we're financing the most bullshit system. Why are we funding a fucking 17, 18-year-old kid to go to 4 years at a cost of $150,000 to get a stupid degree
for an undecided major?
An undecided major, for them to not even the first 2 years, they just take all these bullshit classes.
Yeah.
And then the companies they're not even valuing the degrees like they used to because everyone fucking has one. So I think
then the question is, how do you expect someone to?
The whole market's inflated. That's why we have a bunch of people taking out loans that shouldn't be given. They should not be granted most of these loans, and the cost, the money they're spending, or the tuition that the schools are charging, are so inflated because the loans are guaranteed. So why wouldn't they?
So let's say this then: if college was free, would it be worth students to go?
I mean, that's a hard question because
answer it baseline. I know what you're thinking, but answer it baseline.
If it was free.
If it was free.
Yes.
Yeah, so it makes sense for that, right? So everyone, it's clearly a money problem. It's not anything else problem. So college does a good job, or a good enough job, prepping people for adult life. It's just the fact that they're spending so much money to make that happen. Now, what I have been pitched before on what a solution to that would be is upping the tax bills for people and having all of that be paid for college. Just like Massachusetts did with the junior college, community college,
Mm-hmm.
same exact way for traditional colleges. I'm not a fan of it because that means I'm a super anti-tax person.
How about so yeah, you're essentially socializing education towards the taxpayer.
Yeah. But why not, right? It's for the future of
well, the same issue we have now. Well, how much at what point do they, or for example, if you're a university and the funding is guaranteed through the tax basis, well, why don't I increase the cost of tuition by 20% and increase my profit margin? Harvard has $50 billion in endowment.
Yeah.
That's more than McDonald's.
Yeah.
More than these huge companies.
I know, it's ridiculous.
It is.
Actually, Trump took away their endowment.
Yeah, they're in a huge fight with Trump. I don't even think that. I'm kind of for it. Fuck them. Like $50 billion.
Yeah.
Harvard is not a school. It's not a university. It's a fucking hedge fund.
It is. It literally is. Yeah.
Like, and the cost of tuition is crazy. And I think if you did do, I think there are a ton of problems that will come out with socializing, quote unquote, college or education. It can't be free. In a sense, I mean, you could say it's free, but at what cost? Like, what alternative cost?
Well, that's the problem. Is we're gonna be getting taxed fucking crazy. So if you go and you graduate college, now everyone
who's paying those taxes. Like,
exactly.
You surely know it.
Would you be like? I bet if you took
the middle class
5% from, everyone's like, oh, make the billionaires paper. That's like the Mamdani's thing. But so okay, let's go down this rabbit hole then. Why can't you?
Because billionaires don't make money. They own equity in companies and finance, and they use it as collateral to finance whatever they want to buy. You can't tax the billionaires, the rich. It's impossible. And all taxes
strictly off of the code that they're following. Like, it's all legal stuff.
And it will always be. The reason why isn't because it's not even of their interest. It's the best way to have this operating system. Like, there's no other way to do it. Because if you have a company that manufactures, employs hundreds of thousands of people, and manufactures cars, it's required to use leverage and debt. That's the only way to keep growing.
Yeah.
And the job of the company and these billionaires is to ensure that when they finance and they expand and they're investing in the company or whatever the money that they're borrowing at the rate that of which they're borrowing at, they need to make sure that the company grows. The growth of the company is greater than the cost of the debt.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, I'm like going on a tangent. But the point I'm trying to make is you can't tax the wealthy. It will never happen. And any taxes that get implemented into the system is just taking funds out of the middle and lower class basis and then reallocating it to another pool of people. And for the most part, it tends to be the people with money. But
yeah, well, the reason why it's the people with money is because they know the system. So it's an education thing. And if everyone is so gung-ho about college, why does college not teach you about the financing system of America? Like, let's have a tax. Like, I feel like accountants, you graduate with an accounting degree and you don't even know what the fuck's going on with this. So, like, why don't we learn more legitimate things that are actually going to benefit working class people instead of stupid liberal arts classes that are just all fairy tales and sunshine? Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, financial literacy is the language of the elite in our period of time.
Absolutely.
It used to be, I don't know, biblical or, you know,
Whatever it was.
being able to read used to be literally being able to read.
Yeah.
Used
Come
to
a long
be
way.
the literacy of the elite. Now it's financial literacy. It's understanding the tax code, and the tax code really only gives those drastic advantages to once you're netting like $100,000 a year net in business. Because it's at that point where you actually get the advantages of, deferring gains, buying real estate, writing off depreciation, and all of these things. And the reason why those tax codes exist is to incentivize the marketplace of people to build and develop things that are in demand.
Yeah.
From the point of the
from population.
The human population. Like if there's a high demand for housing, you create incentives for them people to develop more housing.
Yeah.
And if those incentives don't exist,
then there's no reason to. And that's what's going to happen in New York. If Mamdani gets elected, New York,
everyone's going to fucking leave.
Exactly. And actually, it's going to work in the opposite effect of which he wants, where he's like, it's going to make traditional, it's going to cause these billionaire landlord millionaire people not to become wealthy off of other people's rent. Yeah, when he freezes rent, it's just going to make the people who own the buildings right now more wealthy, because it's going to eliminate the supply. And no one else can go out and compete, because if you're trying to build a building, developers get their money from investors, and investors see that there's not enough of a return because the rents are so low. It's not going to make sense.
I don't know. The first statement kind of confused me, like you said, but the second statement I agree with, where if they freeze all the rents, I think real estate prices could potentially crash, because at what point would you at least plateau heavily?
Yeah.
Because if you can't increase, if the growth of return on the housing doesn't continue growing, the value of the real estate itself is going to continue growing. And then if you end up taxing, I mean, if they end up charging these taxes on these billionaires per se, they're just going to start buying out real estate elsewhere.
Totally.
The buyers are just going to leave to other markets.
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful thing about the United States, is we have state law. So, if something happens in one state, people flock to another.
Yeah.
And
the problem is people still, we're seeing it in California, where people leave California, move to Texas, and still vote blue. It's like, how does that make any sense? Like, you literally left your state because of how horribly it was run, because of how you voted, and now you're going to a different state thinking that it'll change. It's people like, I don't know, people are sometimes stupid. But I want to kind of cap it now. I don't want to go more than 50 minutes.
Yeah. We're
done. On, but
I can keep talking though.
I know you can.
But
I could too. But
all right, that was episode 1 of whatever the fuck this is with Dylan. We'll keep it on another day.
Let's go.
All right.